Here are the underrepresented people saying, hey, we want representation and we'll pay for it if required.
Who do you think are the unrepresented people? You're like, again, you're so close. The rich people, the rich white people who can afford to fly planes to spout their racism are not... Oh, speaking of flying, let's talk a little bit about Sargon of Akkad. You might know him as being the unconscionable British bloke who single-handedly destroyed UKIP. No, don't come after me for that one. But you might also know him more recently from the man who called me the F-slur in one of his live broadcasts. It doesn't exist on the internet anymore, but the internet never forgets. By the way, Sargon, Bubby, I would love to finally get you to accept that offer for a debate. I've been trying for so long. I try so hard. Sorry, we were listening to Linkin Park earlier. If there's any way we can facilitate this, please have your people reach out to my people, or I'm just going to continue to pester you on the internet, because I know you're not on social media officially, but your friends are. And so, let's follow through on this. Anyways, let's listen to Sargon of Akkad talking about how white lives matter.
Do white lives matter too? That's the question that has been raised by a banner, as you can see, flying above a football match yesterday that says White Lives Matter Burnley. This was a football match between Burnley and Manchester United, and the incident occurred...
What? Well, I mean, if nothing else, I got to learn something. I didn't know that occurred. That's weird.
Just minutes after both sets of players and match officials had taken a knee in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. So, it's being seen as some kind of contradiction. And I think that we need to talk about this, because I don't think that it is a contradiction, unless, of course...
Is he woke? Is he about to point out the right thing? Well, let us see. I mean, I'm not holding my breath. No, come on. Well, let's see.
Black Lives Matter is something that must never be challenged. When you say all lives matter, people usually respond with, yes, and that's why Black Lives Matter. As if Black Lives Matter is a subset of all lives matter. And I can agree with that. Personally, I can't stand racializing issues like this. If we're going to talk about the importance of a person's life, then why do we have to bring their race into it? I mean, their life is valuable no matter what the race is, right? Well, not necessarily, because if we say that Black Lives Matter is a property of all lives matter, a subset of it, then surely White Lives Matter must also be a subset of...
Of all the directions I thought he was going to go in this, I did not see this one. I didn't think we'd be talking about the copyright restrictions of the All Lives Matter movement and how there's going to be different, branches, if you will, tentacles to some. Strange, but go on, Sargon. Let's see.
Of All Lives Matter. It's a particular subcategory alongside Black Lives Matter and Brown Lives Matter and whatever other colour of race that we want to use for Lives Matter, because all lives matter. If you come from that framework, which, I mean, I would be an All Lives Matter person, but I wouldn't be a white or Black Lives Matter person. I think these are both poor formulations. But that still doesn't change the fact that if you are someone who looks through the world through a racial lens and you think Black Lives Matter, that's important, then what is the reason that you would say that that White Lives Matter isn't true? What was the reason that you would use? Because it seems to me that
they're running the show. That's the thing. They're in control. I don't have to go into the history of this because I don't think we have the time. It doesn't, the format of what we're doing right now between the two of us, Sargon, it doesn't really permit these kind of things. But yeah, white people are running the show. That would be it. That there's a huge amount of inequity. And there's a systemic racism that is pointing in one specific direction. And unfortunately, for those who are experiencing it, they don't feel that their lives matter. They feel that they are indiscriminately being killed by the police. So that's one of the reasons that they're speaking up about it. That's where it comes from.
The same formulation would apply to White Lives Matter as is formulated by Black Lives Matter.
Such a strange take. Oh, if I can. It's a matter of chemistry. No, don't you understand this? No, see, if I had a vial of All Lives Matter, and I take another vial here, and see this one here in front of me, okay, now listen, this one has White Lives Matter, why then should I need to have a different prescription for a different vial? Did you not understand this? All lives matter equally within the vials. It's alchemy.
And these are actually not in contradiction unless Black Lives Matter is not a subset of All Lives Matter. Unless Black Lives Matter is a negation of All Lives Matter. Say, no, not All Lives Matter, only Black Lives Matter. And that...
I don't genuinely know if he believes this. Like, I someone has to have explained this to him in the simplest possible terms. Or is it that much of an echo chamber? Does he live so much in a bubble that no one has explained to him in very, very simple terms why this is wrong? Like, why what you're doing? Like, even that old metaphor that everyone loves throwing around. If you had a whole bunch of houses on fire, and one house was on fire, and then the other house was on fire, and you were spraying one with water, and someone was like, well, why don't you spray all of them? And you would be like, well, all houses matter. Like, even something as basic and simple as that. Something that children can look upon and be like, oh, okay, I get that. I don't know what a metaphor is, but I understand that one.
That's the place where I think Black Lives Matter is actually coming from, and I'll show you about why I think that in this video. But anyway, of course, the usual hysteria about the phrase White Lives Matter filled the internet. We shouldn't ignore it. We shouldn't ignore it. Well, don't worry, they're not. I mean, they've already condemned it. They've already said, well, I mean, this is motivated by racism and a denial of equal rights. This is awful. This is something that Burnley Football Club is condemning. As if Burnley Football Club... What do you know about any of this stuff? The answer's nothing, isn't it? The answer's absolutely nothing. Nobody needs you to condemn anything, but you allowed yourselves to be politicized, and here's the backlash. Here are the underrepresented people saying, hey, we want representation, and we'll pay for it if required.
Who do you think are the unrepresented people? You're like, again, you're so close. The rich people, the rich white people who can afford to fly planes to spout their racism are not...
And apparently that is some kind of criminal act. For some reason, there's going to be a police investigation into this.
Oh, he broke
I would love to know what crime they've committed. Presumably, it's the crime of racism, right? They're going to claim that this is a racist crime in some way. But, again, if Black Lives Matter is a subset of All Lives Matter, then White Lives Matter must also be a subset. Otherwise, what logical framework are you using? Again, it seems to be a way of actually trying to deny equal rights, because there are victims, white victims, of brown and black people. And these people are routinely ignored and suppressed by the establishment as it is, by the media, by the police, by the politicians. It's very difficult to get them to actually do something about the
God damn, all that race crime against the whites. It's been it's been a rough go. It's been really hard for us white folk. You know, we've been so systematically oppressed. Let's just say culturally, as of very recently, and even then, it's not that big of a deal. So yeah,
victims of multiculturalism. But no one wants to talk about that, so let's carry on.
Okay, can we just get the facts of the feels here? In the United States, statistically, racial crimes fall within racial lines. Surprise, surprise, but there's mostly the majority of white people committing crimes against white people, black people committing crimes against black people. Now, I haven't seen the statistics. I'm going to pull them up in a second, but I'm going to surmise that it's the exact same thing within the United Kingdom. We will see, but I'm going to guess that. That seems to be the way these things go.
The mad lad who arranged this White Lives Matter banner has refused to apologize. Well done. They're going to absolutely destroy this man. But well done, that man. Never bend the knee. Ever. It doesn't matter what they do to you. What matters is that they bend your will. And that's what bending the knee is. It's breaking your will to resist them. And if you refuse to bend the knee, then no matter what they do to you, they will still have not broken you. But anyway, Jake said on his Facebook page, I'd like to take this time to apologise to absolutely fucking nobody. It's apparently racist to say white lives matter the day after 3 white people got murdered in a park in Reading. But we've all seen this on TV as all we've seen on TV is Black Lives Matter after George Floyd got murdered. What a mad world we live in. Well, that's actually a really great point and really well made, because it does kind of appear that if a person of colour murders 3 white people in a park, everyone's like, oh, that's sad. But nothing further needs to be said. No more conversation, no more outrage. It doesn't matter how many terror attacks, it doesn't matter how much interracial violence, it doesn't matter.
And it's outrageous. And then before you'll see all these lefties, right? They sit there and they hear about these crimes against the whites, and they're erect. Every single one of them. Just raging erections. And I, for one, I'm utterly befuddled. I'm come on. Let's look at the facts for 2 quick seconds. And again, I apologize for using the Wikipedia Handy, but of course, Wikipedia Handy is pretty quick for us to do in this kind of context, because right away, all the sources are going to be quickly linked at the sides. But for someone who doesn't know anything about the statistics in the United Kingdom when it comes to the racial divide between race and crime, now, would we assume perhaps that there's probably going to be some differences in poverty levels between black and white Britons? Probably, I would guess that, but let's find out. In June 2007, the Home Affairs Select Committee published a report on young black people in the criminal justice system of England and Wales. It is said that young black people were overrepresented at all stages of the criminal justice system. The Commission for Racial Equity and Youth Charities welcomed the report. Ministry of Justice figures regarding race and criminal justice systems in 2010 are shown in the table below. So population age 10 and over, white 88.6%, black 2.7%, Asian 5.6%, mixed 1.4%. Not stated or unknown. Wow, that's very, very high. Prison population, including foreign nationals, white 72%, black 13.7%, even though they only make up... Wow, okay. So it's pretty much the exact same as the United States. Police officers have the power to stop and search individuals under a range of legislation. Black people were the subject of 14.8% of all stop and searches compared to 7.6% of arrests and 6.7% of cautions. The disproportionate number of stop and searches is partly accounted to by the fact that 54% of the black population in England and Wales live in London, where the stop and searches are more common for all ethnicities. In 2008-2009, England and Wales, more black people were stopped and searched under Section 1 of the Police and Criminal Act per head of the population than any other ethnicity. Black people were 7 times more likely to be stopped and searched than white people. There is strong evidence that once stop and search, black people are no more likely than white people to be arrested, suggesting they are disproportionately targeted. Racist crimes. In 2005 to 2006, 1,543 victims of racist crimes in Scotland were of Pakistani origin, while more than 1,000 victims were classed as being white British. The British Crime Survey reveals that in 2004, 87,000 people from black or minority ethnic communities said they were the victim of racially motivated crime. You're so off base, Sargon, by such an astronomical amount. But the whites, won't someone please think of the white people? They had suffered 49,000 violent attacks, 4,000 of them being wounded. At the same time, 92,000 white people said they were also fallen victim to racially motivated crime. The number of violent attacks against whites reached 77,000, while the number of white people who reported being wounded was 5 times the number of black and minority ethnic victims at 20,000. Okay, well, there's this statistic that we can use to back up some of these things. However, again, 92,000 white people said they were the victims of racially motivated crime. 87,000 black or minority ethnic communities said they were the victim of racially motivated crime. Let's go back to the fact that we have, what were the statistics on population? White people make up 88.6% of population age 10 or over. Black people make up 2.7% of the population age 10 and over. Do I need to point this out to you, why there's something wrong when 87,000 black or minority ethnic communities said they were the victim of racially motivated crime, while 92,000 white people said they were the victim? I don't want to just I mean, I'm being pedantic as well as immature and childish for the simple reason that I really want to just hammer these points home, because when these ghouls love to talk about this kind of shit and bring it up as if this is this is just facts. You have to understand this, all right? The whites are getting way more crimes committed against them, way more racial crimes. They're getting all this violence. The white race is in danger right now of not only being replaced by Lauren Southern. Lauren Southern is coming over to Britain and she's going to replace every white person. But there's also the added danger of the fact that they are the victims of all this racial crime. That's what this all comes down to.
About the casualties on the white side of the tally. It only matters on the casualties on the people of colour side of the tally, because that's the way these movements work. Now, this guy was apparently featured with Tommy Robinson on his page, so I mean, now you know that he's a racist. I'm just joking. I don't think Tommy Robinson is a racist. But this led to him having his Facebook page deactivated. Good news. But anyway, let's talk about the Reading stabbing attack, actually, because it turns out that 2 of the victims have been named so far, and they're both gay. I mean, they're both white, they're both gay, they both wanted equality, and presumably they would have been pro-diversity. And the reason that the diversity decided that today is a bad day and that this was acceptable, unironically, was apparently because the UK is a racist country, at least according to the attacker's brother, who says this. He says he's not a terrorist and was arrested because the UK is racist. Right. The guy who stabbed to death 3 people and injured a bunch more has been arrested because the UK is racist. Do we agree? Does anyone agree with that?
The statistics do. Just going to do some little things here. Just please bear with me for 2 seconds. This is for science, everyone, okay? So don't worry. This is going to be good. It's all for science. Okay, we got one piece of science here. Let's grab another one. Put a little science in the corner here. Oh yeah, that's some good science. Ooh, look at this. Beautiful science. Nice. And now I'm just going to hit play.
Anyone in the mainstream media agree with that? Do any of the politicians agree with that? Labour, do you agree with that? SNP, do you agree with that? Do you agree that the UK is racist and therefore it justifies people of colour just picking up knives and randomly stabbing white people? Does anyone think that's justified? I mean, let's fuck England. The man claiming to be terror attack suspect's brother. Really, fuck England. Surely that means also fuck the English. But I love this. He's defending himself from racism in the UK. Like what? I mean, defending himself from what? Gays? Is this a Muslim thing, where an Abrahamic religion thing, where they like to persecute gays? Is that what's happening here? And how far does this go? Because I get the feeling that it doesn't stop at anywhere reasonable, does it? I mean, it might even go as far as to like finding 19th century imagery, Christian imagery of St. Michael standing on the devil, defeating Satan, and say, wait a minute, that looks a...
By the way, I'm just showing the recent statistics, which are on their own horrifying. But let's just think for a second and just ignore the history of imperial colonialism under Britain and what they did across the entire globe, as if that doesn't have any kind of, I don't know, pertinence to this discussion, shall we say.
A lot like what happened to George Floyd, hardy. What are you talking about? That the devil has wings and a serpent's body. And he's grey. He's not even black, he's grey. Presumably because that looks more negative compared to the shining brightness of the Archangel Michael there. Like this is a kind of symbol of St. George and the Dragon done by St. Michael and Satan. Like this has nothing to do with black people, fundamentally, or white people. It's got nothing to do with people. It's angels and devils fighting, you lunatics. But no, take it down. That's what this is. Take it down. I mean, look at the way they frame this, right? The original image may have been St. Michael slaying Satan, but the figure has no horns or tail and is clearly a black man. What? He has a tail. You can see the tail at the back there. Okay, he doesn't have horns. Oh, sorry, this depiction of the devil isn't good enough. So if we draw horns on there, you can be like, okay, well, now he has horns in the tail, so now he doesn't look like George Floyd. Like, this is not what this is about, is it? This is such obvious nonsense that you just sit there and think, God, I can't wait until Piers Morgan joins in. Of course, Piers Morgan, the man who got humiliated by a literal communist on his show, has no idea about any of this. He doesn't understand how he is being subverted by communists. Neither does Suzanne Reid, I think her name is. And listening to them trying to explain why Black Lives Matter is noble and good and heroic, and White Lives Matter is evil and racist and bad, is
Oh, first off, yeah, Piers Morgan sucks. So that's the first thing I think I'll probably agree with Mr. Sargon, of course, this entire video. And the second thing, religious iconography, deeply marred and stirred in racist history. Absolutely. Beyond the fact that the Bible was used to justify a lot of slavery, there's, of course, the fact that the Bible has very clear instructions on how to suppress and subject different races of people. And I'm not even going back as far as saying, Canaanites and or Israelites, but the Bible is rife with this kind of stuff. On top of which, you can see why that would be problematic. And even if you can't see why that would be problematic, why are you bringing up these anecdotal stories? Like Anecdote Andy over here. Like neckbeard Anecdote Andy. Like, well, here's an isolated story that is quite horrifying. I don't enjoy it. And it says drastically terrible things about white people. And I don't know. It's just not quite becoming, as some might say. Who gives a fuck? Let's talk about the current statistics.
Genuinely amazing. Listen to this clip.
Interesting for anyone who's confused about why that banner causes offence. Because nobody is saying white lives don't matter, but it completely misses the point of the Black Lives Matter movement. So Kick It Out, which is English football's anti-racism charity, said that
Dwarfest with the other generous BYN5. Thank you very much. And Black Trans Right. Absolutely.
And the organisers' chair, Sanjay Bandari, explains it like this. The point of Black Lives Matter is not to diminish the importance of other people's lives. It is to highlight that black people are being denied certain human rights simply by virtue of the colour of their skin. It's about equality. We shall continue to support the Black Lives Matter movement and the fight for greater equality for all in football.
So I was just saying earlier, does he live so much in an echo chamber that he's never heard an explanation as to why all lives matter is offensive and why it's trying to reappropriate the Black Lives Matter movement? But he just did, so I'm very curious now to hear what exactly he has to say about that.
Why is it that it appears that that is actually the case? That it is actually a negation of the term White Lives Matter? Again, I wouldn't choose a racial formulation, but since you have, and decided that this was the hill you were going to die on, even though the statistics in this country do not back up what has been said there at all, as the BBC said, white people are 25% more likely to die in police custody than black people in this country, then why is it being approached as if it is a negation of Black Lives Matter? And why is everyone on the Black Lives Matter side trying to negate the idea of White Lives Matter? Again,
that's what you're doing. You're doing it in the opposite direction. How are you so transparently clueless about this? What you're describing is the thing. You're describing the thing that you're doing right now.
Again, by the same logic, you have to accept White Lives Matter if you also accept that Black Lives Matter because all lives matter. If that's not the case, then all lives don't matter and only Black Lives Matter, which makes White Lives Matter a negation of Black Lives Matter and not just a parallel interest group.
Well, there you have it. The 5D chess has been accomplished, and now we're all better for it. So thank you, Sargon, for solving racism. I knew he had it in him, and eventually he would do it, and here we are. So, tip of the hat to you, sir. And thank you. All lives matter, everybody. All lives matter.
Hey friend, thanks for watching. Before we bombard you with all of our shameless links, we want you to bombard us. Do you have a worker co-op business or local union you'd like us to advertise at the end of our episode for free? So, if you'd like ears on your worker co-op, go down to weareserfs.com. And while you're there, join the Discord because it's filled with righteous guys, gals, and MPals. Finally, come check us out on Twitch Live 5 days a week by going to twitch.tv/thesurftv. Yeah. To our lords, Ricky Pilgrim, I'm Raft, Tomospone, Nine Tails Cosmic Fox, Hans Josephine, and Corpse Harvester, we bow meekly for your pleasure. To our Knights of the Round Table, Josh Mickelson, Dylan Byte, Zach Christensen, Todd Buckingham, Todd Lajeunesse, Clement Chetskoff, Cooper Pilot, aka the Man with Large Balls, Political Puppy, Nick Davis, Ali May, and Alan R., we salute you. And to our many merchants and farmers, you have our undying loyalty.